I'll introduce you now.
And where's this chair? Okay.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to the Moore County Senior Enrichment Center. How is everybody today? Wonderful. Nice to see all your bright, shiny faces today. My name is Lynn Drinkwater, and I'm the SEC Program Coordinator here. And every year between Katie Hall and I, we go ahead and schedule a Scam Jam event. But before we get started, somebody dropped their little ticket over in front of the sheriff's table over here. So if everybody can look to see if they have their little pink tickets, whoever doesn't is getting this one. You don't? Well, there you go. There you go. Okay. Well, I am going to introduce this lovely lady, Stephanie Bias, who is the program coordinator for the Senior Medicare Patrol that works alongside the North Carolina Department of Insurance SHIIP program, which is the Seniors Health Insurance Information Program. Right. I've known Stephanie for ages. She's fabulous. And when you listen to Life 103.1, you'll hear a lot of her commercials about scams and frauds and all that kind of fun stuff. And so, without further ado, here is Stephanie.
Thank you, guys. It's so good to be in Moore County today.
You need to talk in the microphone, though, in order for it to record.
Oh,
you.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Let us start over. Smile for the microphone. We were in Concord. I have to tell a story. We were in Concord yesterday doing an event, and it was the 25th anniversary of the event we were doing, and they asked if we had anything sparkly that we could wear. I thought, no, I'm not going to go to a Charleston or wear any sparkle stuff. And they said, well, we're getting you crowns to go on your head. I thought, oh, God, I got to walk around with a crown on all day. So I had this crown on, and at the end of the thing, the lady that got us the crowns, and she used our grant money to get those crowns. I said, did you get that approved? Nope. But she said, well, I have to have the crown back. And I said, I had been decrowned and crowned in the same day by people that were working our event. So those are the things that, we kind of deal with. I've worked for the Department of Insurance for a very long time. I have 41 years of state government service. So that's a long time traveling the roads of North Carolina, up and down, back and forth. My better half says, where are you going, 40 East or 40 West? That's kind of like, which way are you going today? 40 East or 40 West. But we love it. If I had to sit in the office all day long, I would not be a pretty soul. It would just, because they work very, very hard in that office. But I like being out with our people and educating these folks on this, everything that has to do with Medicare. And I bring you greetings this afternoon from your insurance commissioner, Mike Causey, and from the staff at the Seniors Health Insurance Information Program. We're very thankful for the people here at the Senior Enrichment Center. We have coordinating sites in all of North Carolina's 100 counties and close to 1,000 volunteers that help folks all across the state of North Carolina with questions on many, many things that go with Medicare. And I want my SHIIP volunteers to wave your hands so they will know who you are. Everybody give them a hand. They work very, very hard. Because everybody's situation is a little bit different. We have a call center that is staffed by North Carolina Department of Insurance employees in Raleigh that, as I say, this will be on my crypt tombstone, 1-855-408-1212, Monday through Friday from 8 until 5 is when you can call and talk to a Department of Insurance employee. We are not a call center that has been hired out. We are DOI employees working to help North Carolina's 2.8 million Medicare beneficiaries. Now, are all Medicare beneficiaries 65 and older? No. We have a lot of folks that are younger than 65 that are on Medicare that may be declared Social Security disabled, have end-stage renal disease, Lou Gehrig's disease, or ALS. And lots of different diseases that qualify them to be able to draw the Social Security disability benefit. You don't ever think that you're going to ever do anything like this, like I do. I have a degree in education, but I think what I do is education every day. Medicare came into existence in 1965, and there was a gentleman that was retired from his place of employment and sent his granddaughter to the mailbox. She got the mail out. She brought it to him. She said, it's from the federal government. He said, well, he said, open it up. My hands are dirty. It was a Medicare card. And he says, well, I don't need that. It said to call his congressman's office. He went inside and called Congressman Jim Vorhill from the western part of North Carolina and said, I don't really need this. I'm a retired railroad employee and I have my health insurance. He had railroad Medicare. He said, well, you've got to have this because it's working with your railroad Medicare. He said, who is in charge of the Medicare program? Who do you think is in charge of the Medicare program? The United States Congress. Why are we laughing? Are you shocked, cry, whatever? United States Congress. And he said, well, if Congress is in control of it, he said they'll create a government entity to oversee and administer it because anything that big is going to have to be. It's a great benefit to have. And that is used to be called the Healthcare Financing Administration, or HCFA, and is now called Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And ACL, Administration for Community Living, is one of the sub-grant folks in our area and our level of hierarchy. And he said, and you mark my words, they'll create a government agency to oversee this and talk to people about it and explain it because no one will ever understand this. This will be too convoluted for them. And that's when the Seniors Health Insurance Assistance Programs came into existence. And that is what the SHIIPs are in North Carolina and in all 50 states. How many folks in here are native to North Carolina? You've got a few. That's good. I'm surprised we have that many in Moore County that are here today, but that is good. But there's a SHIIP and an S&P program that fights the fraud in all 50 states and the 4 territories. So where your sister lives, your brother-in-law lives, your aunt lives, they have a program just like ours that can help walk you through this. This is a judgment-free zone when you get a service from SHIIP. We're not going to say, oh, I can't believe what they said in Moore County today. No. We're not going to go talk to your neighbor, your friend, or anything to tell the questions that you have. It's confidential. And it's a judgment-free zone. Don't be embarrassed to ask because it is convoluted and complex. We're very fortunate, as I said, to have Katie and the team down here and the volunteers that can help our folks to understand all of this because I do the fraud piece. How many people in this room besides Dan in the back have $60 billion a year to lose? That is what was lost of your dollars to Medicare fraud. We talked about that gentleman that opened his mailbox that day, or granddaughter opened the mailbox. That man didn't have a lot of years of formal education. He was a smart man beyond his words, but not beyond his level of education. That man was my grandfather. And I was the one that picked up his Medicare card that day. So every day that I go and help a senior understand this convoluted program, I'm honoring his memory. He passed away in 1973. I think he would be very proud that we had this program. And we don't charge money for it. And we don't say, go to see John Jones down the street. Good buddy of mine. He's an insurance agent. Can't do that. We have to remain neutral, objective, and unbiased. Our goal is to educate you so you make the best informed choice for your particular situation. $68 billion a year was lost to fraud. Year before last year was $60 billion. How many folks in this room? What day is today? We're Tuesday. Thursday. Well, I'll tell you, and this is very kind of sad to say, when you know that you are getting older and you have to have someone to kind of help you make decisions, do any of your children more? Some do. You have chosen to receive your Medicare benefits.
I'm going to switch you out because that's going in and out. There you go.
It's like I'm calling the meeting to order. How you choose to receive your benefits through Original Medicare or with a Medicare Advantage plan or a Medicare and employer group product, or if you are retired military or retired service or civil service or state service, you may be receiving your benefits in a different way. So don't go with just what your neighbor says about. Do you think that there's people that will call you on the telephone and try and say they are from Medicare, and what are they there to do? Confuse the fool out of you. They will say, I'm calling from Medicare. Medicare's not calling you on the phone. They'll say, because you verify what your number is. Tell them you can't speak, you can't read, you can't write. You're not signing, you're not giving. None of the above named things, because if you do, then what maybe have they done? Taken that information and sold it to somebody that could scam you. This happens in a lot of areas and in a lot of different ways. I was in Duplin County speaking with a group year before last, and this man had called this lady and said that he was surprised that her grandson hadn't taken better care of her roof. And she said, why do you care about my roof? Well, I was riding by and I saw that your roof was in disrepair. He said, if you got $8,000, I'll be there Friday and we'll fix it. And she said, now tell me again what your name was. He said, I played football with your grandson at this high school and all this kind of thing. And she said, oh, yeah, I think I do remember you. She said, but it's going to take you a lot longer to get here than 30 minutes from Wilmington. He said, well, ma'am, how can you say that? She said, because you got killed 3 months after y'all got out of high school. And I'm calling your mama and your grandmama and saying that somebody has stolen, somebody is using his identity so do you see what I'm saying? Be careful what you share. I love social media. I want to see what everybody's doing, where they're going and all that kind of thing. But be careful what you share. Even if someone is called to their greater reward, make sure that you're careful what you put in your obituary and where you put your memorials to. Well, my wife, she was a wonderful wife, but she had to look after her husband, and he had cognitive decline for like 15 years, and she didn't want to put him in a home, so she kept him at home and all this kind of thing. Well, what if people read that and say, well, she's really had a tough time, and she had. But they say, that's an easy target. So what do they go after? We're trying to file some Medicare claims for him because we know he just died. Give me their number. You've got to protect it just like you would your Social Security number. I know people say, why are you giving me this plastic card? Take this plastic card holder, put your Medicare card in it with the number facing face down. I live in Raleigh, and behind Raleigh, Rex Hospital in Raleigh, they built a CVS that the pharmacy is open 24 hours a day, including the drugstore, but the pharmacy is open. I was in there one night late coming off the road getting a prescription, and a lady had one of my S&P card holders, and I thought, be quiet, Stephanie, you don't work, you're off, whatever. She had her card so that I could see her primary insurance and her secondary insurance, and she had it like this. What does everybody have in their hand besides their keys? Their phone. What does the phone have on it? A camera. What could I have done? Taken a picture of that card. And I thought, my mother has said there are times when you speak and you shouldn't speak. But I felt the strong need to say, ma'am, I'm so glad that you've put your card in your card holder. In fact, I work for this program that where you picked up this card holder. And I said, but please do me a favor and put that number face down to the bottom so somebody standing behind you can't take a photograph of that card. All right. I grew up in the Baptist church, so every Wednesday night you had to go to prayer meeting. I don't know why, but you did. Kind of the thing at that time. And how many folks open and read and check for accuracy their Medicare summary notices every quarter? You've got a couple in here. Everybody needs to do that because that's where you can find out if there's been a mistake made or fraud. We encourage folks to keep a healthcare journal. When I say a journal, it doesn't have to be some formal something. It could be a spiral-bound notebook from the Dollar General. That when they call you, when you call the doctor's office and you say, I want to go see Dr. Jones today, they're going to say, what kind of insurance do you have? Well, I have Medicare. What do you need to see the doctor about? You've written down your aches and pains that you want to talk to him about. They say, well, why do they want to know? Say they will allocate enough time for the physician to address your needs. And then you take that journal with you, and the doctor says, we're going to do blood work, we're going to have an MRI, you're going to have a CAT scan, you're going to have an x-ray. Write that down. When will I know the results of those? Will I need to come back to you for an appointment, or will you be calling me? And in what time frame can I expect that call? People say, why do you ask people to tell, for them to find that information out? Because invariably, their daughter or their son or their neighbor is going to say, what did the doctor say today? You will have it. You will look at that Medicare summary notice and make sure that the services that were rendered against your account were the services that you did receive and from providers that you knew. You've got to be careful with that. Medicare used to send out statements once a quarter. In the January of this year, that is no longer going to happen. You will get them twice a year, every 6. So you need to sign up. The girls can help you here. Sign up for a mymedicare.gov account to track your claims online. You got to read. You open up your Visa, your MasterCard, your bank statement. Check it for accuracy. Do the same thing with your Medicare information. And if you don't understand how to file an appeal for something that may have been a simple billing error and something that may not, we can help walk you through those steps. We have a lady in Swansboro, which is going to the beach, and she said everybody in here gets a phone call like 10 to 12 before we eat from somebody wanting to give them a walker and a wheelchair or a scooter or something of that nature. She said, I don't need it. I don't want it. I've won gold in speed walking for senior games. I walked 5 blocks up here. I'm going to walk 5 blocks back. And she said, and don't you have to have a note from your doctor? She knew that this person that was on the phone with them wouldn't understand prescription. And he said, well, yes. And she said, well, somebody over in Newport, which is a little town across the bridge, is going to sign off on you to get one of these. She said, without me seeing it? Yes, they will sign off. And she said, well, she knew that wasn't true. She said, now give me that doctor's name again. And she said, I don't know who you are, but you have just told a story, because that was what my grandmother used to call a lie. Somebody told you a story. She said, ma'am, what are you talking about? Hey, that's what that gentleman said on the phone. She said, I carried him for 9 months. I birthed him. I educated him. I raised him. That is my son. I put him through med school, residency, and helped him start his practice. He is not going to be writing out prescriptions for people for walkers just based on somebody calling you on the phone. You've got to have a medical need. And that man hung up the phone, and she said, he didn't call me back. I said, aren't you glad? But she said, the next phone call I made was a speed dial to my son. And he said, well, Mom, I haven't heard anybody come in here and asking for that information. But he said he probably just picked my name out of the phone book. And she said, well, do not give your information out for someone to have something like that, because there may come a day that you do need it, and Medicare will say, we've already paid for it. You got to be careful. Read those statements, check them for accuracy. That is completely important. Always know that there are rights of appeal. Now, we just said that, remember, you're only going to get your statements twice a year. It's hard to remember what you had done last week, much less 6 months ago. Be careful with that. Make sure that you've written something down, that you went to Dr. Jones and this is what you discussed in some type of a journal or form. We talked about all of your children. Not many of your children all live here in the local area. Please make sure your adult children or someone that you know and trust in your family knows how you have chosen to receive your health care coverage. Because you get sick, and we told you over here to First Health, more regional, whatever it is now. You go over here, and they live out of town, and they've got to come help decisions. They need to know what they're walking into about what your coverage is. It's not to mean that you can't make a good decision. They need to know, because they've got to make good decisions about what your next level of care might have to be, rehab or whatever. And so please make sure that your adult children know how you've chosen to get your coverage. We had a lady that was from this area that she watched television. And what do we see on television all day long? Advertisements from famous people that threw balls and paddled balls and, whatever. Well, I want what he has, because my husband used to watch him on TV, just thought he was the grandest thing. She called And they called us from Medicare and said, she signed up for 5 plans in one day. We think there's a problem. Well, yes, Sherlock, there is a problem. And so we called to her, and she didn't want to talk to us. And we finally found out a contact for her daughter and talked to her daughter, and she said, well, she just saw that on television. And I said, well, we've got to do something to rectify the situation to make sure she knows. And she says, well, my mom doesn't really need any of that because my dad is retired with 30 years from the military, and my mother covers him. I mean, she piggybacks him with TRICARE for life. And he also went to work for civil services after he graduated from retired from the military. So that's what, she had that insurance as well. Plus, she was a retired educator in a surrounding county school. She had her education experience and her state retirement health benefits. So she was overinsured, but we didn't encourage her to give anything away. She said, well, we really kind of didn't like the person that we put in at Congress. And I said, well, whether you like him or not, he gets your mama's TRICARE for life back. Then that's what we need for that to happen, because your dad did spend his entire career defending this country. So, and she is entitled to that benefit. You've got to be careful. You've got to be careful. Anything that you see as suspicious, report it to us. Remember, caller ID is nothing but a software package that can be spoofed. It can show up that you're calling yourself. Have you ever seen calling yourself? I thought, I've had bad days, but I don't want to call myself because they probably won't like what I've got to say. But those are the things that you need to think about. Please make sure your adult children know what you have chosen. Make sure that you understand what it is that you have chosen and not what someone has said. Oh, you're going to get free, as someone told me, silver slippers. No, it's silver sneakers. And these were people that were proficient in insurance, which scared the life out of me. But the frees and the perks, that's all nice, but you buy based on what your doctors and your providers accept. And you know what your financial responsibility is. A lot of things that you see on television are things called Medicare Advantage plan. They work for someone just great, but you've got to look at that evidence of coverage to know that you could owe up to $10,000 out of your pocket a year, even if you're going to your providers that they accept. That's not a negative against that. We're giving you as thinking points about how you choose to, because you worked for that benefit. All the years that you worked, they took out OASTI, which is Social Security, and HI, which is Medicare, trust fund monies. These are investments for you, just like any IRA or anything that you have. Be a good steward of these benefits, because if we continue to lose $68 billion a year or $60 billion a year, any $1 billion a year to fraud, then it won't remain solvent. Then what? I mean, you're going to be able to go into your local agent's office and say, give me the same thing for Medicare for the couple $100 I've got to pay. That's not going to happen. So we've got to all do our part, and to remind our neighbors of things to be careful of. Okay, who has questions for me? Yes, anybody? Questions? Has this been clear? My grandmother was a speech therapist, so I don't have a speech impediment. You may, I probably, if I get to the pearly gates, I'll probably be the last person to leave, because, she said, you've been down there talking to all these people about this Medicare stuff. And I thought, well, I helped you, Mom, when, you were going on Medicare. But I had your daddy's insurance. Yes, you did. And God bless my daddy for always helping folks about this. So just know that we want to keep you safe as much as we can without getting into your business, but just want to make sure that you understand, because things are not always as pretty as what you think they are. They really are not always as clear. I've enjoyed being with you folks, and I hope that you'll have a good rest of your spring and summer. And I saw that some of the golf courses are all pretty and all that kind of thing. So who do we have next, Lynn?
We have D Woodard.
JD's going to come up here and talk. JD, I want you to talk to them about some of this stuff, because JD, we're going to talk about this. I mean, it's the same. JD may say some of the same things I said about different things, but he'll say it in the same way. You got to be careful and take care of yourself. Right, JD?
That's right.
They don't want us to be mad, do they?
No.
Here we are.
Oh, yeah, it's.
I've got you. There's a little clicker.
Ooh. What's Bradley going to do? Hey everyone, welcome. Thank you for coming back. This is my second time here for our scam presentation. It's nice seeing such a huge crowd. We had a great crowd the last time. Hopefully you guys get a lot of this out of this. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. For those of you who do not know, my name is D Woodard. I'm an information technology professional. I've been in the IT industry for almost 30 years now. I deal with government, U.S. government IT. I also deal with healthcare IT and public safety IT. So I have a very extensive background. Working with me on this presentation is Captain Bradley Whitaker with the Moore County Sheriff's Department. Bradley, you want to say a few things?
Hello, my name is Bradley Whitaker. I work for your elected sheriff, Roddy Fields, and I've been with the sheriff's office just under 29 years. I started at the sheriff's office at the age of 19 as a telecommunicator, and actually I was trained by D Woodard. He was leaving, and he trained me to take his position before he left. So that's how I got to meet JD and had a friendship since then. In fact, we had a famous person, Chuck, here, who dispatched with us and has times, but started as a dispatcher and then been there for 29 years. And then, so we see a need for these types of presentations. Sadly, we see a lot of scams throughout the county. Every day we've got someone that's getting scammed of a lot of information, a lot of money that just in our county that goes to scammers. And so when you think about it as a nationwide thing, then it's pretty massive. Sadly, a lot of people that get scammed fail to report it just because of shame or embarrassment or not really knowing what to do. So whatever number there is, it's a small fraction of actually the scams. But JD's got some great information. I will jump back and forth and just kind of fill in where needed.
Yeah, just grab the microphone when you need it, buddy. Chuck, welcome. Chuck and I worked together at 911 for several years and had a good time, sir. Thank you for coming. Appreciate that. Okay, everybody. So we're going to jump right into this. Those of you who've been here before know that I have this series. I call it Scam Busters. And back in August, we did Scam Busters 101. And now we're up to Scam Busters 201, kind of like we're back in college again or high school. But we're getting a good education. We're learning a lot about these scams. The topic for today is zero trust for everyday communications. We never trust unsolicited communications. Always verify using a method you control. That may sound like a lot, but we're going to jump right into it, and hopefully everyone will understand it. We'll take questions afterwards and hopefully make things clear for you. First thing we're going to do is do a review of Scam Busters 101 for those of you who were here, and for those of you who weren't here, just so you can catch up with where we are. Online scams are a massive and growing problem. Billions lost each year. And as Bradley stated, those are the only ones that are reported. So it could be even hundreds of billions that are lost because not everybody reports scams out of embarrassment. Scammers commonly contact victims through email, text messages, phone calls, and social media. Popular messaging platforms are frequently used to move conversations off major platforms. What that means in English is that you're on social media, you're on Facebook, you get a text message, you're on Instagram, you're on any kind of platform. You start talking to somebody and they say, do you have Telegram? Or you have WhatsApp? Or do you have Zangy? And you're like, what's that? We can talk better there. If someone is wanting you to switch off of Facebook or Instagram to something like WhatsApp, Telegram, or Zangy, and they claim to be here in the United States, you're talking to a scammer, point blank. They're not a legitimate person, period. So keep that in the back of your head. If you're talking to somebody and they say, especially Zangy, if they say, download Zangy and talk to me here, they're not a real person. They're a scammer. I can tell you that for 100% fact. Okay. Many scammers impersonate trusted organizations, banks, government agencies, delivery companies. Bradley, on the last presentation, talked about the jury duty scam, which is a very common one, where you would get a call from someone claiming to be with the local sheriff's department or any law enforcement agency, even the caller ID spoof, just like the young lady mentioned earlier, that what that spoofing means is that they fake the number. They make the number on your caller ID appear to be the number of the Moore County Sheriff's Department or the Pinehurst Police Department. So you're looking at it, thinking it's real. They will call you and say they're Bradley Whitaker, Captain Bradley Whitaker with the Moore County Sheriff's Office. You missed jury duty. You need to, you need to do this, this, and this. And they'll say, look at the number on your caller ID. Isn't that the number of the Sheriff's Department? Look it up. They'll give you a direction like that to try to, in your head, verify that that's who you're talking to. That's a manipulative tactic because they want you caught up in that scam. They want you to sit there and think, oh, I can trust this person because the number that they have that they called me on is the number I get when I look up in Google. But we need to remember in our head, they can fake that number. Always remember that. Okay, the goal is always the same. Create urgency, gain trust, and get access to money or personal data. That's the main objective of these scammers, especially the money. They want your money. Okay, so these are some of the scams that are out there. Email scams, that includes phishing, which is a way of trying to get information from you via email. Fake invoices, tech support refunds, lottery notices. Text message scams, the toll notices, we've all gotten those. The deliveries alerts, bank fraud warnings, we've all gotten those. The phone scams are jury duty threats, police impersonation, bank fraud. And then we have the social media ones, the typical ones, the fake profile, celebrity impersonation, investment pitches. Please, I know we all think we're amazing people. We all think we're great. We think, I look in the mirror and say, JD, you're awesome. But I know if Holly Berry calls me up on social media and says, hey, your profile caught my eye. I'm like, yeah, Holly, okay, yeah. That's not happening. So, no matter what I think about stuff, I know she's not going to call me. So keep that in mind. They want to do these long con scams. That's usually what the social media scams go into the pig butchering. And if we need to talk about pig butchering, we can talk about it after this presentation for those of you who aren't familiar with it. Okay, this is getting into the zero trust. We're going to talk about why we need a new model. Well, the reason we need a new model is because scams now look professional and convincing, because artificial intelligence has eliminated obvious red flags. Meaning these text messages and emails that we get, we used to look at them and say, okay, there's a spelling error there, or the English just doesn't look right. So, this has to be a scam. But the AI, or artificial intelligence, has a way of writing those emails so it looks normal. They don't have the spelling errors. They don't have the English inconsistencies that we see in previous scams. So, and also anyone can be fooled under pressure. Anyone, even myself and Bradley. Well, Bradley cannot be, but, I can be fooled under pressure, because Bradley's, he's the man. Okay, so this is the background of zero trust. Zero trust is not something not commonly known in the general public in your day-to-day lives. This is something I took from IT. This is something that we do in cybersecurity concerning securing networks. We used to trust every single email that came in. It said it came from Microsoft. We believed it was from Microsoft. We opened it. We followed the directions of Microsoft. Or we get an email from a coworker. We downloaded the attachment. There wasn't, did you send this to me? And they're like, no, yeah, I sent it to you. Okay, you open it. There was none of that verification. And then what happened was the hackers started realizing that, and they went in and started hacking the network, putting viruses in, taking advantage of IT networks. So we adopted this philosophy: never automatically trust, always verify. That's what zero trust is. So basically what I'm explaining to you is like, if you get a call from someone claiming to be Bradley Whitaker with the Moore County Sheriff's Department, and you have a jury duty summons and you need a report for jury duty, and Bradley's on the phone, or someone pretending to be Bradley's on the phone saying, you owe this amount of money, you have to do this, you have to do that. And what zero trust is saying is, you hang up the phone. Hang the phone up. Go in the phone book or look online for the official number of the Moore County Sheriff's Department. You call that number and ask them for Detective Bradley or Captain Bradley Whitaker. Do not trust that initial phone call or that initial contact method. That's what zero trust is. Okay. Any message that comes to you is untrusted by default. That includes texts, calls, emails, DMs, which are direct messages, QR codes, even messages from known companies and or people, meaning your bank. If you get a message from your bank, say whether it comes from a text, phone call, email, DM, or QR, or not QR code, but one of those ways, if you get a text message or a phone call from your bank saying this is a fraud department, what do y'all think we would do with that? Any ideas? Hang up. All right now, that's it. You hang the phone up, you pull out your back of your bank card, you look at that number on the back of your bank card, and you call that number. That's what you do. Do not stay on the phone with these people. Do not engage them. It'll work for you in the long run. These are the zero trust questions. Did I expect this message? Can I verify this independently? Are they creating urgency or secrecy? That's a big one. The scammers like to do that. They want to create urgency. They don't want you to tell anybody. They want to tell you, if you tell someone, it can get really bad for you. That's common with the jury duty scam. Are they asking for money or personal information? And that can deal with the Medicare scam as well, especially the personal information. Okay, the air gap rule, meaning an air gap basically means the workflow, the process. So you never respond using the same channel. So if you get a text message from, let's say you get a text message from the sheriff's office, you have jury duty, or you get a text message from DMV saying that there's a ticket under your name or something like that, or you get a text message from your bank saying there were fraudulent charges to your account, you want to verify by another means. Don't just trust the text message saying that there's a problem. Email, same thing. Don't just trust an email saying that, oh, there's an issue with your account, or there are fraudulent charges, or you have a $500 bill with Best Buy. Check, log into your bank account directly, or call the number on the back of your card. Always verify. On a phone call, just like the gentleman said here, you hang up and then call back using an official number, no matter what your caller ID says, because they can fake that caller ID.
If there's a number or a link in that message, you want you to call that number, do not call that number. That's just trying them to get you to call them or reach out to you. So, like Daddy said, make sure you look through the internet or a legitimate source and find the number for the legitimate source. If it's a fake, you go to your local branch and speak to someone in person. But just make sure you're not clicking on the links or using the phone number.
Yeah, that's 100%. Thanks. But yeah, and that's one good thing about being in a small town. You can go to your bank branches and talk to your banker and walk in the door and say, is this legitimate, or, what's going on with this? And they expect verification. Scammers don't want verification. Scammers rely on speed and emotion. They want you upset. They want you intense. They want you to do this fast. If you verify, if you stop and verify, it breaks the whole scam. They have nothing to go with. They will get mad if you say, I got to go and I have to hang up and call this other number to verify. You can't do that. You can, Bradley will tell you, if the sheriff's department calls somebody and they say, I went to JD Woodard's class. JD said zero trust. JD said that I need to hang up and call back on the official number. What did they say, Brady? What would your deputy say if somebody said that to them?
Yeah, I mean, it's totally legitimate. We get calls quite often from people who are calling our office saying that, they just got a phone call from someone claiming to be with us. And either they'll use a name that's not a legitimate, officer's name, or they'll go to our website and they'll look up and see names listed under that and then use our names. I got a phone call a couple months ago from a guy, and I answered the phone and he was kind of panicking. He said, "I was the one you was just talking to," and I'm thinking, "Well, I haven't talked to no one the last 2 hours." I'm on the phone, and come to find out he was being scammed. And then the guy told him, he needed to go get these green dot cards at the local grocery store. So went to Harris Teeter. And I guess when he was inside the business, his phone got a little bit too far to the back and his call dropped. So he was calling up because he was worried that we were coming to arrest him. And thankfully for him that, we were able to tell him that he was being scammed and that it wasn't a legitimate, phone call, that he didn't owe any money. So, yeah, if there's any ever questions, hang up, we can have an officer come out and speak with you or whatever. But yeah, just don't trust it if it comes over the phone.
Yeah, just protect yourselves because you're your last line of defense when it comes to these scams. Like I said, verification breaks the scam. So we're going to talk about real examples. The bank text. You get a text alert from your bank, suspicious charge, reply, and it says yes. And then you sit there and look at it using zero trust. You did not initiate the call or the text, untrusted automatically. Urgency detected. That's manipulation. They're saying, you have suspicious charges. Action, what you should do. Open your bank account or call the official number. Okay. Here's a PayPal one. If you have PayPal. If you don't have PayPal, definitely know it's a scam. Because I had I'm part of a forum on Reddit, and this gentleman posted, said, I got this message about my PayPal account being locked. I don't know what to do. I think it's urgent. And the first question I asked him, said, "Do you have PayPal?" He said, "No." I said, okay. So, your PayPal account has been suspended. Email looks perfect. Logo is correct. No spelling errors. That's the AI stuff. And zero trust says, did I expect this? No. Is urgency being used? Yes. Can I verify without clicking? Yes. That means what you can do not click on the email link, open PayPal app directly, or type in paypal.com manually and log into your account. That's if you have an account. Okay, Medicare verification call. This ties in what the young lady was talking about earlier. Caller says, "This is Medicare. We need to verify your number to issue your new card." They already know your name. They sound professional. Who wants to guess what we do here? Hang up. How do we verify this? Where are we going to get the number from? Oh, yes, I did something, Bradley. Okay, zero trust. Did I initiate this call? No. Are they asking for personal information? Yes. Can I verify this independently? Yes. Boom, correct action. Call the number on your official Medicare card. See, I'm done. You got it. Yeah, so get that number on the back of your official card and call that number. Okay, one rule to remember. If you did not start it, do not trust it. Pause, take a deep breath, because they're being urgent with you. Verify and then act. When in doubt, walk away, hang up. Don't worry yourself with it, because that's what they want. They want you intensely worried about it. They want your emotions riled up because you're going to make the wrong decision. Okay, so this is our Scam Buster Pro pledge. All right. If I didn't initiate it, I will verify it. Urgency is a red flag. Always remember that. Urgency is a red flag. And this last one, I will never send money, gift cards. Bradley, do you accept gift cards at the Sheriff's Department? That is, if they want to bring you some, okay, all right. Or crypto without verification. Unless any of you are professional crypto investors, don't trust or touch any crypto. If someone calls you one in crypto, scam. Okay, so if you want to stay connected to me, or if you want to look at my updates, I do have a free newsletter that's available for everybody. There is a subscription link, but you can ignore that. You don't need to make any donations. Just go to this website, scambusterpro.substack.com. This is my email address. You can reach me at is contact@scambusterpro.com. If you put your phone towards this QR code, it will open to the Scambuster Pro newsletter. Yes. Now, how are you getting these software updates notifications? Okay, depending on your phone. If it's an iPhone, you go into settings, general software updates. You don't just click on something that pops up on your screen. Never do that. Never just click on something that pops up on your screen saying, oh, you got 20 viruses, or, your phone is compromised. Apple and Google don't do that. That's not how they work. Google, I can't remember the menu tree, but Google updates are in like system, phone, software updates. So always go through your phone itself to do the manual updates. Don't just trust the pop-up. Okay, any more questions? Please ask away.
And we can just talk a little bit more about scams and the different types that we're seeing. Back years ago, back before computers, they found different ways of scams. I fell to a victim to a scam several years ago. I saw an ad in the Steals and Deals where you can stuff envelopes and make all this money, part-time job stuffing envelopes. You just send them $50 registration fee. And I thought, well, that'd be something good I could do and need them when my kids were small. And, I sent them $50 and they cashed my check, but I haven't got anything from it since.
You're not stuffing envelopes now?
No, I don't have any envelopes to stuff. So, like I said, it's easy. And, the thing with scams is they're constantly changing. We can sit here and tell you about several different scams that we're having, and tomorrow there'll be a new one that come out. The most recent ones that we're seeing are the ones where they're, threatening, arrest because of jury duty or saying that you got an unserved warrant, you didn't show up for court. Surprisingly, what we're finding out here recently, some of those come from overseas and they're hard to trace back, but also a place that we would never think of them coming from would be inside the Georgia State Prison. There's a gang inside of the Georgia State Prison who are using contraband cell phones, and they're scamming people out of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. They're getting the cell phone smuggled in either through a guard that they're paying off, or if it's a drone that's dropping it off over the recreation yard. But they found recently they indicted a couple of people in federal court, to more than 30 years in prison. But these people are already serving life sentences in prison, in state prison. So they've got all this time. They showed that these two guys had made over 10,000 phone calls in 1 month. And that they're scamming all of these people, and they're using resources inside the prison where they can go on the internet and look up, agencies' phone numbers. They can look up, get names off of it. If you go to our website, you'll see the command staff's names, pictures, and stuff are listed. So that's most of the time when they're using a legitimate officer's name in our county, that's how they find it. One of our majors who's over our detention center, he got a call one day and it showed the sheriff's office, so he answered it, and the guy was pretending to be him. So, I mean, we're getting them all the time. On a weekly basis, I'm getting phone calls and, someone saying, hey, do you know Captain Goins? And I said, yeah, he works with us. And they said, well, he left us a message. And I said, well, don't call him back. I said, it's a scam if they did that. So, but we're seeing that daily. And, we have traced some of the calls from our county back to the Georgia State Prison. And then what we're finding is they have people that's on the outside, family members who are, helping them take the money and launder it, and they get a portion of it, and then they'll, send some of it back to their gangs. So they're funding their gangs through this. We also find it comes from other countries, Ethiopia, some of the small countries over in Africa, and it's organized networks. When you call these people, you can hear other people in the background, and they'll tell you that they're going to transfer you to a supervisor, so you can speak with them, and it might be someone else in the same room. But they're coordinated scams, and they put a lot of time and effort into them. So it's not uncommon for people to fall to them because they do that. But like JD said, the big red flag is a sense of urgency. If they're telling you not to hang up the phone, not to tell your family, not to tell your friends, and then try to get some money source to them, then you're being scammed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And we don't, sadly, we don't have the resources or the authority, if it goes overseas, to track those down. And it's time consuming. And, like JD mentioned, some of these apps, that the reason they want you to go to those apps is because they can't be traceable. Zangy, or Text Now or WhatsApp, and some of those, the companies are legitimate companies, but they're overseas, which means that if we send a court order to them trying to get subscriber information and figure out who they belong to, then they won't honor our court order. So it kind of limits us. It makes it hard for us to identify even who these people are. There was times, like JD said, they had the scams where they would call you and it would sound like someone that, from overseas with an accent, and they would have you put money in a box and you'd ship it to them through the postal service. And those still happen, not quite as common as the newer stuff that we're seeing today. But we've had people go to the bank, withdraw the tens of thousands of dollars, and they ship it, put it in a box, and then ship it to an address that they're told to ship it to, thinking it's some type of winning. A sweepstakes scams is a big one. People, they get notice that they've won $3 million, but that they have to pay the taxes on it up front. And so they send them to $2,000, $2,500 to pay their taxes, and these people are just taking their check and keeping it, and they're not getting anything. Or they might get a check from someone, like if you're trying to sell something online, and someone will call and say, well, hey, I would like that, and instead of paying $800, I'll pay you $1,500. You just cash a check and send me the rest back. And people will do it every day, and then and then come, they cash the check and they send it back to them, and then come to find out that the check was fraudulent, and then they're the ones stuck having to pay the money back to the bank.
Yeah, and be careful with sites like Facebook Marketplace. That's a big one. If you're buying something on Facebook Marketplace, my recommendation is always use cash. Don't use Venmo. Don't use Zelle. Don't use Cash App, because those items, Venmo, Zelle, and Cash App, are designed for you to give money to your friends. Like, you give it, like if I'm giving Bradley $20 for lunch today, I could Cash App him safely because Bradley's my friend and Bradley will get the money. But if you're selling something or you're buying something on one of those platforms, send that money, and you're not going to get the item. You're not. Don't go that route. If you're buying something, don't go that route. If you're selling something and they say, I can't meet, but my cousin's sister's nephew's uncle can come in and pick it up for me, but I'll Venmo you the money ahead of time, and you just give them the change. It's kind of like what Bradley was talking about. And what will happen is they're using a stolen Venmo account to give you that money, and this cousin, sister's nephew, uncle comes over to pick up those items. You give them the change from that Venmo for gas, and then everything works out all good and dandy. You give him the item and the change. He drives off. About 2 months later, you get a message from Venmo saying, we're taking the money that was put in your account because it was fraudulent. And you're out the money, you're out the change you gave that guy, and you're out your item. So always use cash. Meet at the sheriff's department or at one of your local police departments. They have areas where you can do these exchange. Never go to somebody's house or have them come to your house. Please do not do that, because there's some bad people out there and you don't want them knowing where you live.
Yeah. Another thing that we see are the what we call romance scams. And those are the ones that are usually generated on social media. Someone will send someone a message and then they'll start talking to them. And at first, the message, it seems like two people just, talking and the conversation's pretty good. And then over a course of months, and they'll find out everything about you. They'll ask about your kids. They'll ask about, every aspect. And you think about it, they're doing a lot of research, not just on the social media platform that they meet you on, but other ways of, finding out stuff about you. But they use that information and they find out, what makes you vulnerable. And, all of us have things that make us vulnerable. Someone might have lost a spouse and they're kind of lonely and this person's showing them attention, or, they're talking about trips that they go on and they're going to take them and offer all this stuff. And that will go on for months and months. And then eventually they'll start, coming up with either trying to get money from them, or they'll ask them or tell them about some investment that's coming up that they can make a lot of money if they'll help, and they'll give them documents showing that, I've been investing with this company and I just made $10,000, and they'll talk this person into putting up a lot of money for an investment, and it's a scam. We see people that, lose their whole life savings. We had a guy in Seven Lakes not too long ago who gave over $70,000 to someone he didn't even know. And this person, they were a golfer, but they, some female professional golfers, they were using them and said they knew them and they were going to get them to come see them. And it's kind of saddening to hear. We had a lady that lived in the north end of the county who talked to someone, and it was always some excuse why he couldn't. He was over in Africa, but for some reason it got held up in customs. But there's always some reason why he wouldn't meet her. But he had talked her to communicating with a friend of his who was a psychic, and this psychic started talking to this lady, and she convinced her to put $50,000 in cash on her husband's dead grave, and that would, that it would open up some channels where she could communicate with them. And this lady did that. She lost $50,000. The next morning, the money was gone from the grave. People do that. What we have seen recently is, like I said, some of these scams are networks. Our sheriff's sister got a call, someone claiming to be with a credit union, and told her that she owed something. And so she actually sent them some money, and then they told her that she needed to leave something on her front porch. And then within 20 minutes, they had some guy pulling up into her driveway to pick that up. Sheriff was out there talking to him and saw this guy there and didn't know who he was, and went out there and come to find out the guy was from Miami, Florida, a young black male, about 21 years old. He had 12 brand new iPhones in his car. And he says that he gets messages, and it's kind of like a job. People do DoorDash. He said they'll get a message saying, hey, go here, pick this up. You'll get this money, send us so much, you can keep a little small portion of it. We had a similar situation up in the north end of the county where a lady was getting scammed, and they told her that to withdraw $19,000 and that they would have someone come pick it up. And then they had a Chinese guy that came and picked it up. He showed up in a Jeep. He was from New York, but they coordinate with them. But it's in talking to these people, they don't know who these people are. They just get messages, asking them to perform these tasks, and then they keep part of the money. And we see that quite often. There's also scams that we see where, like, you might get a package at your house. You open the package up, you don't know who it's from, but there's a note in there. It says, hey, this is a kind gesture. It's a gift for you. If you want to see who the sender is, you click this, QR code.
Yep. Scan the
And
QR
then,
code.
and then it kind of creates that. And a lot of times that's scammers finding out who would be willing to receive packages, who's willing to answer them and look at them and communicate with other people. So a lot of times they'll use them as a person, and they'll have some of the frauds go through them. So like they'll have, literature or something come to a certain person, and their job is once they get this to, take it and put it in a different package and send it somewhere else. But what happens to law enforcement, we're going to that house because that's where everything's going. And then we're finding someone who's been a victim themselves, and they're being tricked into help facilitating the fraud. So if you ever get any gifts or anything unwelcome like that, return it to the sender. Keep the gift if you want to, just do not, just don't respond to them and open up that communication, because they're looking for people who's willing to, reach out and do things just for curiosity and stuff. So every day that we're seeing scams. You can report it to your local law enforcement agency. Sadly, there's a lot of times that we can't do anything with it. I mean, we can make a report and document, especially if there's a money loss, because sometimes your financial institutions will reimburse some of the loss as long as you haven't given away like certain things. Like if you give PIN numbers and stuff like that, they might not help you. But if you were scammed, sometimes they will help, return some of the money. Your local law enforcement agency. If you live within the city limits, call the local police department, or if you're outside in the county jurisdiction, call the sheriff's office. Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah,
I didn't want to click on anything. So
Nope.
I took a picture of it, got rid of the thing, and then just sent a little.
yeah. Do not click on the links they send you. You could go to Amazon.com, and if you
Yeah.
have an account, log on to that and see if you see it that way.
I guess the law enforcement people that think they're more focused on the bigger.
Well, we're focused on whatever we can do. Some of it depends on how they contact you. Like, if something was sent through the mail, it's not easy to track back. If someone contacts you electronically, we might can get the IP address or the company that they were using. But a lot of times, like I said, we use companies that are from overseas that won't honor our court orders. So a lot of times our hands are tied.
But when somebody's personal communicating with you online, they tell you to go to this platform.
Mhm.
That's because they can't be tracked on that other platform.
A lot of times, yes.
it's for that reason, and another reason is you're talking to different people. So what they do is, the reason they have you go to something like Zangi, WhatsApp, or Telegram is that multiple people can log into that same account and communicate with you. A lot of these scammers, they're texting you or messaging you through these platforms. It seems like all day and all night. You're talking to different people. You're not talking to the same person. That's another reason they use those web accounts, because anybody within their network can log in and see your conversation history with that person and catch on and continue the conversation. They also use artificial intelligence. So sometimes you're not even talking to a person. Yeah. Yeah. In the back. Yeah.
I'm wondering, what you do after you started something online, and somebody just sends you something, I'd like to do something completely serious.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like that day, typed out the whole thing. I started filling out some of the stuff, and it was actually anything before to get another card that goes up. And so I started it, and this was right after I had a dental, I had to get a dental card.
Mm-hmm.
And that was authentic. So,
Yeah.
okay, they just want to make it good. And as I'm filling it out, I realized, uh-oh, I didn't just use scan, and I stopped it. But they got a lot of information, not my social security number, but they got my phone number, they got my fingerprint on, and so, but I stopped it, and I deleted it,
Mm-hmm.
printed it out.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you do in that case?
Well, in that case, a couple of things. If you're ever your information's going to be out there. Unfortunately, 99% of us in this room, our information's already out there. It's due to some type of data breach, to some type of platform. What I tell everybody, unless you want to buy a car very soon, or a house, or some type of larger purchase like that, get your credit freeze your credit with all 3 credit bureaus. That's free to do. Freeze your credit. That way, if your information's out there and someone tries to open an account under your name, they cannot, because your credit's frozen. So they can't buy a car, they can't buy a house, they can't get a credit card under your name when your credit's frozen. Until you turn it off. Yeah, mine is frozen. Yeah, I've had mine frozen for 10 years now. All 3 bureaus, and it's free. You reach out to your credit bureaus. If you send me an email at this, I'll send you the links to the 3 credit bureaus so you can freeze your credit. Yep.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am. That's a data broker. Yeah, that's one of the data brokers. So it's not an official credit reporting. It's more of an information warehouse. So yeah, that's what they're for. Yes, ma'am.
The other day, I got an email from AT&T,
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted to update something, so I thought, okay, AT&T,
Mhm.
my husband happened to walk in, and as I was looking at it and getting ready to go to set across the top, it didn't say ATM.com,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, stop.
Yeah.
And then he instantly went and changed our AT&T account.
Mhm.
We had different commissions. But it was, I said, how do you get money out of AT&T? But he said they couldn't log your phone or something for my account that wasn't.
Either that, or they would have had you click a link in there, and they would have you put your name, your social security, and your account numbers. And then once they get your account numbers, and they can go in there and they can change stuff. So, and you think about everything, all of our information's out there. There's websites that are free, public. I could go to one right now and I could type in your name and the town you live in, and it will pull up your home address, any addresses you lived at prior, phone numbers. It will tell us your relatives' names and their addresses. It's kind of scary. I mean, you think voter records, if you can just Google your name in the town, and then voter records will come up, and you can actually see, people can see your address and see exactly where you live at. So, one thing is when we talk about social media accounts, everyone wants to be on social media, but be cautious of what you put out there. And it's kind of the stuff like we use, especially working our internet crimes against children cases. We have to be cautious, and we tell these people to be cautious. Even the parents, if you're taking pictures of your children and they're wearing their high school T-shirt or stuff like that, it helps, some predator who might be 3 states away to know what high school they go to. You might have pictures of your cars and, other things like that they could use to find you, especially if names are, a little bit uncommon. There's a lot of Smiths and a lot of Blacks and a lot of Browns in this county, Garners, Manuses, and stuff like that. But so, sometimes with the common names, it might be a little harder. But if you've got a name that's not a lot of those names around here, it would be easy for someone to find you on social media, find your addresses and stuff like that. So just be cautious of the stuff that you put out there. Yes, ma'am.
What about these checks? I get checks from people all the time. Well, who they are. They send me a check and they say, we see the value of your house is $92,000. And there's a check for $92,000.
Mhm.
And luckily I did it and I shred it because
Mhm.
I don't want to cash a check like
Yep.
that. But if somebody else got it, your mail was delivered to the wrong place and they signed that check, would they get that house?
They would take and a register deed. He more about that, but it'd take a little bit more than just them taking that check. I mean, you'll have to do some paperwork and follow up on it. But it would be a good start that they could, maybe open the door for them to try to explore and do stuff. Yeah. Yeah, and more than likely that check probably wouldn't bounce, but they might have you send it. But it would start some process where they know that you're interested, and they would be haggling you and stuff like that. So.
I didn't have that house anymore anyway.
Yeah.
And put it in the
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Mhm. Um,
We have information back here on this table from, Brittany, who just watched, what is it, the registered deeds, right? There's a form that they have on their desk that's free, and you fill out all of the names that you have. First name, middle name, last name, your first name, middle name, maiden name, all of that, and they will actually register it on the computer at the county level. And if somebody was to go in there and try to access your account, they would flag that and contact you. So that is a free service from the county, and that's why we've invited them here today and have that information on this table back here. That's one way.
but yes, that has happened. I know in Wake County that they've done that. They were able to charge the lady and then get the, the fraudulent stuff taken out. But you have to be cautious, and you just kind of keep monitoring your credit, different things like that. In Moore County, all the tax records, the GIS, and all that's online, so you could go in there and look, which is good that you could verify that your information's accurate, but everyone else can see that too.
Just hang up. I don't know. Exactly, that's the best thing. Don't answer, they won't leave a message. And you can't stop it, unfortunately. I just don't answer.
Yeah, it is aggravating for sure. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Mhm. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and you don't know the purpose of, it might be that them start with that, and it's just a way for them to get your phone number, and maybe they'll say that they want to run a credit check and try to get your social security number. So they're looking for some information, but each time, each scam, they might be looking for something different. So the best thing is just to hang up on them, tell them you're not interested, and just talk. You eventually just got to hang up while they're talking. Yeah, yeah, and you can file it with a registered deed or with the county tax department, and then check, and they can do some of that information.
So, what everyone think? Are we good? We're informed? Okay,
Bill, just step back.
I have one more question before I leave. Okay, go ahead.
It seems that what Bill was saying,
Yeah.
fewer doors we open on mass communication, the less people we have a picked up on these scam calls and contacts. If we try to be on social media, 20 different platforms, we open ourselves up to a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But it seems like we evaluate what we actually need.
Yes.
We need, and then cut out everything else. We might be saving ourselves a lot of mistakes.
You would be. That's the benefit and negative, the positive, negative of social media. Social media, you can communicate with everybody. That's a good thing in a way. The thing is, everybody can communicate with you.
And if you do have social media, put your settings to where everyone just can't see your stuff.
Yeah,
And then
make it
if it's
private.
someone that you know personally, then you can accept this request. If it's a name that wants to be your friend or, you know, over the country, you don't have any, then yeah, that's probably a scammer or something. So.
I have a comment and a question.
Yes, sir.
Come on up, William.
You know, the
Yes, stand over here and this will be in the actual picture. There you go. I'm gonna have, I'm sorry, right up the chair.
If you get a deed for your house,
Yes.
I heard that's illegal in the state.
Mm-hmm.
It's blocked. You can't do that in the state. Is that true?
Well, that's going to be this gentleman there, Mr. William Britt. Right
The
there.
other thing is, my insurance guy
Mm-hmm.
is Southern Pines. So if I get anything in the mail that I have a question about, I just call him.
Yeah.
Make a phone call, tell him about it, show it to him.
Mm-hmm.
They'll tell me, throw it in the garbage.
Yep. There you go.
Even if it comes, it says it's from Medicare, I just, if I have a question,
Mm-hmm.
I just bring it to him.
Okay.
Just explain it to him.
Now, quick question for everybody before I finish up, if you don't mind. Would anyone be interested in a presentation about artificial intelligence and how it's used on scams, such as fake videos, pictures, and all that stuff? Okay, all right, Bradley, I guess I'm coming back to do another presentation. I will make that happen. I'll work with the team here, and we'll make that presentation happen. Mr. Britton, would you like to say a few words?
So I'm William Britton. I serve as your elected register of deeds for here in Moore County. So I'm just going to give you about a 3-minute spiel because that's usually all I ever get whenever I speak. And so we have a recording notification. You can sign up with it in the back. So we do have some different fraud and stuff. The deeds office usually is a filing office where you file a lot of different documents that we take in, pretty much anything that meets the standards we have to accept by law and by the state law. So the biggest things that we see are pretty much your deeds, your mortgages, and your power of attorneys that we handle that get filed there. So there have been incidences of where we have had deed fraud here, we've had mortgage fraud, and we've had different fraud. So the recording notification service that we offer, you sign up with your names, and if we index, it doesn't stop anything because the state law doesn't allow that. But what it does do, it notifies you that something has been filed in your name. That notification will come to you, and then you can contact us. Typically, I tell people not to contact law enforcement first. Sorry, Bradley, because a lot of the times they end up calling me, or they don't really know what's going on because there's a lot of factors that happen sometimes in the things. So in our office, we're trying to keep track of any time there is some fraud and stuff so that we know what's going on. So if a deed did get processed, a lot of things on our side is we need to contact the Secretary of State. We may need to contact another state where that notary public, because a lot of times it's fraudulent notaries. To go ahead and notify them that this fraudulent notary's been done so that gets deactivated. There's a whole bunch of different processes. So if a deed's done and it goes to the tax office, they'll change the address of the new deed and the new person, so then you won't end up receiving your tax bill. Well, if something happens and it keeps going on and on and on, and this is changed and that, you could not get your tax bill, then the tax office could foreclose on whatever property and this and that. Typically, properties with homes aren't usually the targets. It's usually vacant property or something of that nature. So that's usually where the first place that we see a lot of scams are, is vacant property. And anything typically with a mortgage or something on it, they usually don't try to because it makes it a little bit harder to do. So the recording notification, if you haven't signed up for it, sign up for it. We have had issues. I got one right now. I was told the other day there's mortgage fraud where somebody, used somebody's identity. They went in and they filed a mortgage against their home and put a claim on it. These people got the money for the home, and now these people have a mortgage on their property. We've had $175,000 the first day whenever I went into office. That first little bit is we had $175,000. These people thought they were buying the property. Turns to find out that it was a scam and the person wasn't the person who they were. They had a realtor, they had attorneys involved and everything. So those people paid the $175,000, got a mortgage, and they were out of the money. The big reason is usually if it's a wire and stuff, these attorneys, especially when they're involved, they hold money into trust and stuff. And typically, if we get quick enough notification with parties, sometimes the wires can be stopped or we can get them, reverted back. We've had a scam with the FBI recently I talked to with them. That was a big one that was going all over the country, which was the notary one. And I had to call the Secretary of State's in Texas and get them to deactivate a notary up there because he was just filing stuff all through the U.S. And so the FBI was aware of the situation. They tried to do a sting operation in Indiana to catch the person. Well, of course, they didn't show up. So and a lot of that stuff, if we're not notified, we send out to the local bar association. We send out to different people that are involved in our offices so that they're aware of, like, hey, if you see this document come in and it's got this notary or it's got these names or something of that nature, they're aware of it. Because I'll be honest, a lot more of the scams that we see are involved with attorneys and people that are in the industry than people that aren't. So, they probably don't like me saying that, but it's just the truth from what we know. But yeah, so any questions real quick I'll take if anybody has anything or, yeah.
The deed, fraudulent deed scam.
Mm-hmm.
I heard it illegal in the state, and we can't do it.
Well, it is illegal to do it if you get caught. Yeah.
I heard there was a block.
There is no block. So as long as if your stuff comes in by the standards that the state law says that the document comes in and has to be recorded this way, I cannot refuse it at all by law. So if it comes in with pretty much a signature, a notary seal, and some other and our basic information and what the state law says we have to accept that document. And that's why we did the recording notification, because there is no way to stop it. The state government has looked at changing that, but there's a lot of kickback in different areas. It causes a lot of stuff. And so the recording notification, I've seen it happen both ways. I've seen fraud with somebody that's had it and somebody that hasn't had it. So the people that had the recording notification, they got alerted. They called and told us right away. And then within like 5 days, everything was cleaned up and cleared. Typically, the owner of the property, you don't really lose your property, but you're going to get drug into all these things, and your property will get pulled into a civil lawsuit and different things because somebody's lost money and somebody wants something. So as long as nobody loses money over here and we get notified and get everything kind of shored up real quick, it's typically just most of the time they do like a quick claim deed and they just flip the property back to you. Now, if it goes on for 2, 3, 4 months or 2 or 3 years and you find out this, and then you're like, hey, my property's gone and it's been sold to this person now, maybe that person sold it now. That's where it gets to be a lot fishier. There's one that I know that was done 4 years ago and it's still in litigation right now. So that person that owns the property, the technical real owner, can't do anything until that's cleaned up. So, it's not, it is illegal, but there's nothing actually preventing it. So from happening. Yeah. So we have a QR code on there. You can go to our website. Regina's in the back there. She's happy to sign you up today. Just don't bum rush her. There's forms back there. And then also if you get the little slip that I have, our phone number's on the bottom there. So we're happy to have you call. We can do it over the phone. We have people that call every day that do it. You do need an email address. That's the one thing right now, is that it goes off of email to give you an email. If you don't deal with email or you don't want to do that. We have some people that do call the office every week or every day, and we're happy for you to do it. And they just check to see if anything's been filed under their name. So I think some of the staff know them by names now, and they expect it. So we'll probably be going to check if they don't ever call us. Yeah, I think Cumberland, most of the North Carolina counties have the exact same program. So if you have property in other counties, check with your local register of deeds to make sure it is there, because it's not all combined into one. We are looking at possibly doing a statewide system, but we're just getting to that part because we're not a statewide agency. We're individual county agencies. But our association and the state government, we are looking at partnering to try to do one big notification. And hopefully we're going to increase the protection, hopefully. But we got to get to that point. So title insurance will typically cover a lot of this stuff. Usually it covers the legal fees and everything. There are some things that title insurance won't cover. So let's say I sat through a presentation. The title insurance company said that let's say you bought a piece of property and you haven't put a home on it yet, and you got title insurance for that property. It covers that property. But then let's say you went over here and built a $200,000 home. Typically that title insurance won't cover that home depending on that policy and stuff. So if they find out that now you don't technically own that property or something of that $200,000 home isn't covered under that policy, so you're out of that. So there are some, it kind of depends on that. So it is always good to ask, what does your title insurance cover and how is it covering when you buy something like that. So it's usually because, some people will buy the land, they may finance it, but they may just pay cash for the home. Then you're out $200,000 on that. So it really depends on how you're paying for things. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't go forward of anything. So I will tell you that title searchers, typically a basic search, I can't say of anybody, is about only a 30-year back. So typically they do only a 30-year search is most of the time on a basic search, depending on. Most of the time, North Carolina has where an attorney signs off on title here. So, that's where it falls on a lot of them and a lot of these people when they do these searches, if whether or not it's accurate or not. We got another one with the property that was just transferred recently. A lot of the attorney's offices are using these new, it's a new system that's supposed to verify identification and stuff. They went through the whole process. They had the people's social. They added all this info and everything. All the stuff said that this person is who they were, and comes to find out that it wasn't. So it's just, they're progressively getting better and better and better. And every time you find something, there's something else. So the biggest thing is we just tell everybody to just check up on their stuff, yearly. Sign up for whatever services are out there to sign up to be notified. I mean, there's just, scammers are going to be scammers. It's a multi-million-dollar thing. It's an increasing thing. I mean, it's a huge network. It's not just one or two people just sitting around that are doing things. So
If somebody does try to report something, how do you contact the person?
ourselves, so we do not. So we are not allowed to. If anything comes in by law and it comes in and fits the standards of registered, we are bound by law to have to take it without question. If they've signed up for it, yeah, if they signed up, it comes through email. So that's why we said you have to have an email. What we have been looking at is, since there has been an increase, is actually mailing, possibly mailing at least the first page of any deeds or certain things out to the original homeowners that it was to, and verifying that way. So we've been in the talks of just recently doing that, just so that you get something possibly by mail too. But that's a lot of filing and a lot of money that would, take over. But, we're just looking at how to incorporate that, or would that be a best option or anything. So we're hoping to move. I think they are going to be moving the notification to a text message platform too, so that you'll receive a message on your phone in the future with our vendor wise. So no. And like I said, we don't care if you call every day. I mean, we literally have people that call every day. That's what we're there for. So yeah. Yeah. So usually we'll tell you you can check with us. Then depending on what it is, we try to get you to the right resources. So I've partnered a lot with the investigators with the sheriff's office and getting their stuff and everything together so they can open an investigation. I work with the tax office to make sure that if it is a deed, that the tax office doesn't transfer, because any deeds that are transferred into our office get sent over to the tax office. Well, as soon as they get those, they change the name and they change the address on that and everything. So if we're notified, then we kind of make sure that all your check marks, and I tried to make sure all your check boxes and everything, that you've reached out to every person that you need to make sure that you're being covered and that this is retroverted back and everything. So, but by state law, there is no way to fully block this and stop this.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm sorry it's all convoluted, but thank you for your help. And I just want to say a couple of things before we start doing the door prizes. I just want to say that the sheriff's department, because they got here when the program just started, there are these nice handouts that are on the table right here. So as you leave today, don't forget to grab one of those. Is there anything else you wanted to say, Bradley, for that? Well, please give a round of applause for Bradley and JD and for Stephanie today. And so I also want to thank the two lovely sponsors that we had today for our refreshments. One of them is Casey with Care Patrol, and the other one is Fort Bragg Federal Credit Union. So thank you all for visiting their tables. And now we're going to have Stephanie Bias come on. We're going to have Katie Hall come on up with her basket, and we're going to give away the two big door prizes that we have. And we have these door prizes through the SHIIP program, the Seniors Health Insurance Information Program. We get a grant every year to help people understand about fraud, waste, and abuse scams. So that's why we do the Scam Jam, and we have a mix of three things. We do advertising in the pilot against scams. We have Stephanie speak on Life 103.1 on the radio, and then we give away fabulous door prizes. So we have two fabulous Power Shred machines. Who's going to be the first winner? 2209 are the last four on your ticket. We had a few people leave early, so there's more chances for people here to win. You got one? Yay! This lovely couple right here. Thank you very much. And the next one is 2240. All right. 2190. Yay. So now what we have are these fabulous rollers. They're ink rollers. So when you get something in the mail you want to throw away, something that might have your address on it, you have this roller to go over it and no one can read what your address is, which is great. So we have a bunch of those. So we're going to give another one away. 2250. All right. We'll have somebody bring it to you. Next. 2247. All right. There's another one. 2225. Okay. 2226. Back there. Mary's got a lot of running around to do. 2242. Who is 2242? All right. Going once, twice. Next number. 2220. Yay, sunny one.
2257.
5757. Lady back here.
2256.
Wow, 2256. Joan.
2232.
2232. Okay. Nope, doesn't look like it.
2195.
2195. All right.
2241.
2241. Okay, back there, last row. 2223. All right. Up here, Mary.
2202.
2202. Okay, gentlemen back here.
If you were not lucky enough to win a treasure, and you got something to create, the Big Boys Creek in the park that you do, they have a great truck this Saturday.
So from this Saturday, 9 to 12, the SECU will have a shred truck there. So in case you need to go bring your paperwork down there, that's wonderful. And we have one more, two more.
2245.
2245. Okay,
2213.
2213. Any takers? Nope.
2214.
Yay! And one more, the last one. 2205. All right here in the front row. Well, thank you all for coming today. I hope you learned a lot. And if there's anything that you missed or you want to tell somebody, a neighbor, a friend, on our YouTube channel, you could watch the live stream. Okay? Thank you so much and have a great day.